Welcome to the January 28th, 2019 meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission. If you would stand with us, please. Commissioner Mike Vaught will lead us in our prayer and pledge. Mike.
Would you bow your heads, please? Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together in freedom and conduct the county's business. We ask that you grant us wisdom and discernment as we approach these issues. Be with us as we go through the coming year. We thank you for the economic activity that we see in this county, and we know it's because of your blessing. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. If you'll face the flag, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Call the roll, please, Gal.
Rhonda Allen. Jim Averwater.
Here.
Lee Bogle. David Jones. Mike Cush. Craig Lynch.
Here.
Chip Pinion.
Here.
Charlotte P. Here. Pettis Reed.
Here.
Mike Watt.
Here.
Jeff Phillips.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have
No, sir.
no minutes? Okay. This time we have the election of our chair and vice chair for 2019. Doug, you have a...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. Welcome again to the first day meeting of 2019. This is the first time we've seen this room in about 3 months, I guess. But every year, consistent with our bylaws, we are to choose a chair and vice chair for the coming year, and so this is the meeting where we do that. This year, we had a nominating committee appointed back in December of Charlotte P., Craig Lynch, and Jim Averwater. So I believe Craig will be the one to make the report. So with that, I will turn it over to Craig.
All right, thank you. After much deliberation, a unanimous decision was that we have Chairman Jeff Phillips to retain his position, Vice Chairman Mike Cush retain his position, and we move it all nominations cease and they be elected by acclamation.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Jeff, Mike, congratulations.
We might have bruised Robert Rules of Order, but the outcome's the same.
Thank you. And we'll proceed with the agenda. I think it's under item 6 this time. We have one item that has been withdrawn. That's item 7C3 19-2001 for Todd Thomas, and that's under the final plat approval. We won't be hearing that today. That item has been withdrawn. Under new business, item 7A for waiver request, 7A1, item number 19-4001. Charlie Montgomery is requesting a waiver from the minimum of 50-foot access easement requirements and fire hydrant for property located along Shores Road. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. A survey for the tracks shown above and also within your agenda packets show that it was recorded in the Register of Deeds office back in March of this year. Again, that's been attached with your agenda packets on your iPads. Although these tracts are both larger than 5 acres, a subdivision plat is necessary for the second lot. As you can see, that lot was one big tract prior to that subdivision of property. The reason it's having to come as a platted situation is because of the fact that this property is accessed by a private easement. You can kind of see where it goes back to Shores Road. The issue that we're running into is the fact that when you look at the proposal, they want to do, I think it's a 65-foot, even though they're only required to do 50-foot, 65-foot easement to this property, which is fine. The problem is it's accessing this, which is only a 25-foot. So they're asking for a waiver to that provision for this. Well, this really is the new lot right here. But the other issue is the fact that even right from this point here, if you were to put a fire hydrant right here, I believe this measured out about 100 or 1,100 square feet, or linear feet rather, yes, which is outside of the 1,000-foot requirement we have for fire hydrants. So this is an existing house right here. This is a vacant lot. They would try to sell this and build another house on it, but that's basically what they're asking for on this. The applicant and a representative is present if you have questions of them, but we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Staff have a recommendation?
This isn't really unlike any other one that we have looked at. The biggest issue here is just the fact that access easement's 25 feet as opposed to 50. Without that, the fire hydrant, it is what it is. It's just so far off the road, there's really not much they can do about it.
A 25-foot can never be changed, apparently.
Well, they would have to get
Got to buy some
or get
land.
with one of the adjacent property owners to find out if they could have an additional 25 feet. It's possible, but that easement's, the way that that's set up has been that way for quite some time.
Make a motion to approve.
Look, I have a question. Has the adjacent property owner that also uses this for access, have they been contacted?
I asked,
by state law,
right, I
we
I
can
asked,
have it free and.
yes, yeah, I asked Charlie Montgomery's here. I asked him about that, and Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that everything was fine as far as accessing that tract, correct? Okay.
Other questions? I have a motion and a second to approve 19-4001 for Charlie Montgomery. Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 7B, submitted for preliminary plan approval. 7B1, 19-1002, Woodruff Cove. 210 lots on 115 acres, zone PUD, located along Shelbyville Pike. Old South Properties is the applicant. Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This property was zoned PUD by the Board of Commissioners back at their November 15th, 2018 meeting. This plan is consistent with the approved pattern book. The issues that we identified in our review have been addressed. I will mention just a couple of things. One of our comments was to darken the phase lines. They have done that. They're a lot easier to read now, but we don't see anywhere on here where the actual phases are identified as far as phase 1, 2, 3. We would just ask them to put that here on the master plan. Of course, any grades that need to be shown would be shown during the construction drawings for that particular section, the more detailed construction drawings. Also, we did receive some correspondence from CUD regarding this plan. They are showing what they have approved so far at CUD is 199 lots based on the soil analysis that they've received so far. This plat that we're looking at right now, this preliminary plan, does show 200 residential lots as opposed to 199. The applicant has been made aware of that. They're in the process of submitting for additional soils. I don't think that's really a major issue, something that should hinder any kind of approval, but just know that that's out there, that there's still a little bit of soil needs to be identified to get that extra lot. So with that, this plan appears to be in good order. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Plat number 6 says all lots are designated critical lots facility.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Rather, that has to do with the narrowness of the lots. I think it's 80 feet or less. They require a plot plan to make sure all the easements and utility connections and everything, that there's room to make those. So they want to see that before actually issuing building permit. The county.
Designated critical lots, isn't that require some additional inspection or attention from your office?
When we designate a critical lot, yes, they will have to have an individual lot grading plan, some by an engineer, and some other details that we'll need for construction. But these are, I think, CUD's lots width, just to make sure they can squeeze everything in the narrow width.
Mike, did this pull the trigger on the red light?
It's already been pulled.
Has it?
It's already been pulled, yes. Yes.
Since we're asking about that, what caused us to pull the trigger on a red light or the, Walnut Grove Road, 268, I think, we were talking about a turn lane there.
Right.
Was that state's determination or our determination?
The traffic engineer's determination, and from the traffic studies that indicated that the number of trips warranted a light at that location. But with Davenport Station, that was one of their approvals, was to in the pattern book was to, with the fourth section, a traffic signal would be installed. So we're kind of holding them to that.
So the traffic studies that we request are what trigger a turn lane or a light or
Yes,
whatever?
sir. Yes, sir. They'll do an evaluation of the number of trips, the turn movements, and whatnot, and see if a traffic signal is warranted. And this subdivision will rely on the Davenport Station traffic signal to give it a tie to it.
When will we see the plan for the mail kiosk? Have you seen that yet?
It's actually within here. Thank you. Yes, it's actually in here.
With another sheet.
Yeah, it's further in the back. I thank you for bringing that up because that we had comments on that, but they appear to be met. We're getting used to this too, as far as seeing these in preliminary plans. So thank you for reminding us. Yeah, they're actually showing that's the location, lot 206. We can pull it back up on the master plan to show, but as far as what the requirements that we approved go, this has been amended. We had some comments when we first saw it, but this has been amended to adhere to the requirements that we have. So we feel that this is a lot better design than what they were showing on the PUD pattern book. If you remember, they were just kind of showing some having a back on under the right of way and everything. This is far superior to that, and we're comfortable with it.
Remind me again, what was recommended for how many kiosks per number of houses?
Number of spots.
Well, we didn't. You mean parking spaces? Or are you talking how many?
Right. 200 homes, one kiosk
Okay.
location.
Yes. Well, we didn't recommend that. We really were going to leave that up to the developer and the U.S. Postal Service as far as how they wanted to do that. I think practically speaking, when we see larger subdivisions, it's probably safe to assume we'll probably see multiple locations, especially if it's a deep subdivision, where you'll have some up front and some in the back. But as far as
I guess my question is, what's considered a large subdivision? How many houses?
well, I don't have we don't have a definition for that. So, yeah. I guess I'm thinking subdivisions. When I'm thinking larger, I'm thinking something like South Haven. It's got over 500 lots. It just makes sense that you'll see multiple kiosks in that. But, yeah. Yeah, but as far as the parking spaces, on the bottom, can you zoom into that,
Yeah.
Mike? Yeah. Yeah, there's a few notes there at the bottom here we'll zoom into. This thing's kind of temperamental. There we go. 4 spaces are required for anywhere between 100 and 200 mailboxes. 5 spaces are required for anything above 200. So, and they're actually showing an extra space with a handicap spot. So, they have met that.
I would assume by this that staff and the local engineers are getting comfortable designing these things. Y'all are kind of getting on the same page.
I think we're starting to get on the same page about it. You'll see on today's agenda,
Right.
other than this one, we've got 3 site plans.
3 more.
Yeah, and we know at least 1 more coming next month. So, it was really, we didn't have much choice but to try to figure out how to do this. But,
The first stabs.
Yeah.
Well,
mhm.
and I think to Charlotte's point, kind of what I'm thinking is, I think this is gonna be one of those trial and error. I think we're gonna have some neighborhoods where we're gonna screw up, and we're gonna
Yeah.
learn when Nexus comes through and be
Mhm.
like, you know what, we needed more than one.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise, we're just gonna
Yeah.
arbitrary numbers.
Right, and since now that we've got something in place, whenever we meet with an applicant for a new, because this is how this is supposed to work, when we talk to applicants with new subdivisions coming in, we just tell them on the front end, okay, you need to figure out how you're going to do your mail service. And if it's, say, 300-400 lots, and they're providing, 1 area, we might have to look at that and say, you might be better off doing a couple different locations here. You might want to provide additional parking here if you're going to have that many. I think it's going to be kind of, like you said, a trial and error kind of situation.
And just Matt Taylor from SEC, just to add a little bit to that, I think the Postal Service is going to push us to only have 1 location. And I met with them just last Thursday in regards to a potential project that has well over 500. And we're trying to break it up into more pockets that would serve about 200 homes like this. And they want us to put all that in 1 location. So we're having to try and convince them to break that up some. And so...
To make something like that attractive, you don't want you to build an area around it, because if it's
probably. And, you know, some of our concern, which has been some of y'all's and staff's concern, has been the traffic generated by that. But they are convinced that people eventually quit checking their mail every day. They actually talked to us about a service that the Postal Service has introduced that you can sign up on their website. They will actually send you an email that shows you what you're getting in the mail that day.
What you're getting.
And so, and I had no clue until I went to that. Now I don't check my mail, but so
Lights are always turned off at the office.
yeah, that's right. So, but that so that helps people know if they need to go that day or not. So I found that interesting.
They only have to make one stop.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that's,
They
that's
actually-
what we've heard, that they're trying to get little mini post offices.
Yeah, and what they had told us was that for every mailbox they get rid of to go to this kiosk situation, it saves them $80 a house every year, which is a pretty significant number. So, but we feel like breaking them up into smaller pockets in most instances is what we're going to want to do.
And this one has plenty of room to grow. You could put some additional parking on the opposite drive aisle, you know, and add, you know, several more spots right there, or, you know, even extend it if we needed to. So this one's got room to grow.
Thanks for your insight on that.
I know we've asked this question before. Who maintains the kiosks? Does the Postal Service?
Yep, HOA.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to reaffirm that.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Woodruff Cove 19-1002. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item submitted for final plat approval, 7C1 16-2048 Bruce Heights. This is reapproval of 28 lots on 34 plus acres, zone RM, located along Rooker Road. Don Bruce is the applicant. Doug.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The preliminary plan and final plat for this development were both approved by the Planning Commission back in 2016. Development of the subdivision is progressing, but the final plat approval is only valid for 6 months, so that has expired. So the applicant is asking for reapproval of the final plat, which was approved in September of 16. So we did identify a number of tweaks that needed to be made, as well as the fact that it needs to have a mail kiosk, which you can see is on the yeah, Mike's gonna zoom into it there. Right in here on lot 29. Now they know that they're gonna have to do a site plan, kind of like we just saw, and one of the ones that we'll see coming up here before we'll let them do anything with this. So we expect to see a site plan in the near future for the kiosk site. But the lot appears to be large enough to do what they need to do with it. So with that, we'd recommend approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 16-2048 for Bruce Heights. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 7C2 18-2060 Compton Road unrecorded survey, one lot on 4.4 acres, zoned RM, located off East Compton Road. Rick Mansfield is the applicant. This includes a waiver for off-site soils easement. Doug.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This plat was also originally approved by the Planning Commission prior to 6 months, back in June of last year. So they are asking for reapproval. This came about, a portion of this property, about 3 acres, was transferred to CUD back in 2007 for a water tank project, which is directly south of the subject property. But the transfer made the subject property less than 5 acres in size, so a plat should have been done at that time. So this plat will remedy the situation. This plat's in good order. It just its validity expired. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments. Second.
We have a motion and a second. 18-2060 Compton Road unrecorded survey. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 7C3 has been withdrawn. 7C4, 19-2002, Foxfire Meadow, Section 11, 17 residential lots and 1 detention lot on 10.36 acres zoned RM, located on Olander Lane. Jones Construction Company is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Oops, sorry, excuse me. Forgot to move forward on my comments here. This, I believe, is going to be the final section for Foxfire Meadows, as I understand it. We did have a number of comments on this particular final plat prior to today. We had a first review and then a second review on this. What's ended up happening here, the plat in and of itself is in good order, but this is another one of those where when we did this originally, there's actually an additional lot here. If you can zoom in there, Mike, lot 372. That's going to be the area for the mail kiosk. And then again, this goes back to what we were just talking about a moment ago with Bruce Heights, that we're going to have to see a site plan for this and everything before this is allowed to be recorded. So we do anticipate seeing that in the near future. The plat in and of itself is in good order. I would like to see that common area lot be a little more specific as to the use of it. It's common area, but it's going to be specifically for the mail kiosk. So I would like them to just kind of note that on there. I don't think that's not going to be a big issue. But beyond that, the plat's in good order. Our comments have been addressed.
So this is the final section of this subdivision?
Yes.
And they're still making them do a kiosk?
Yeah, apparently, and you know, Mr. Taylor might speak to this even a little bit more, or Bill, yeah, since Bill. I'm talking about kiosks just in general, not the plat. Okay, sorry.
I'm sure Matt would like to talk about Bill's.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry. No.
I just thought if it was established.
Well, that's what we saw it, but apparently and the reason I bring up Matt's name because there's another plat a little further on. Well, it's the next one on Waldron Farms, where it was a similar situation. It was the last section of the subdivision, and typically the USPS has been granting waivers if it's the last section. Well, based on that email that was sent to me from the USPS from SEC, it said that you know, basically, no, they're going to make them still do a kiosk even though it's the last section of the subdivision. So apparently that's what's happened. Apparently that's been changing, that it's not just that last section, it's any section at all.
I think that has to do with that the USPS locally had a change in personnel that were making those decisions, and I think the previous person was a little more lenient, if you will, than the new person. The new person's a little more hard line on if it's over 7 units or whatever that number is, they're going to make us do the mail kiosks, because we've been getting that the last month and a half or so, whereas the previous few months we've been able to get a few more waivers that way.
And I'm sure Bill has any comments he can make on his plat. He'd be happy to make them too.
Other questions?
Make the motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve 19-2002 Foxfire Meadows. Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 7C5, 19-2003 Waldron Farms, Section 6, 26 residential lots and 3 common area lots located on 16.22 acres, zoned RM/CUP, located along Cooperleaf Road and Nickel Trace. Waldron Farms is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is the reason for the zoning being a little bit different. It is zone RM, but this is one of those subdivisions that had a previously approved conditional use permit under the old regulations, which kind of grandfathered in when we went under the new zoning regulations a few years back. This plan for the development was approved by the Planning Commission back in July of last year. This plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plan. A mail kiosk, and this is what we were just talking about a moment ago, was required by the Postal Service, and the proposed location is shown on the plat. You can see it's kind of in the end of the cul-de-sac right there. Mike's going to zoom into it right in that area. Again, they know they have to do a site plan. In fact, they said that they anticipate submitting a site plan for the next submittal deadline, which is tomorrow, so I would anticipate seeing that. So beyond that, that was really the only comment we had left outstanding. This plat is in good order, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Chairman, I move for its approval of staff comment.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 19-2003 for Waldron Farms, Section 6. Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 7C6, 19-2004, Walnut Grove Subdivision, 7 lots on 5.92 acres, zoned RM, located along Walnut Grove Road. Stephen Ayers is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The applicant's proposing to divide the frontage into 7 residential lots. The remaining acreage will be split into 5-acre tracts, which would not require Planning Commission review. These will all have driveway access onto Walnut Grove Road. Since that is a state road, TDOT approval will be required for the driveway connections. Being that this is not 8 lots, this will not require a mail kiosk. But the only comment we had left to verify has been taken care of, and with that, this plat appears to be in good order. We recommend approval. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
And, the plat note number 20, which talks about each lot required to install a rain garden or similar stormwater management practices. As a homeowner, how do they know that? Is that recorded on their deed, or?
They will, each lot will have a long-term maintenance agreement, so it'll be tied to the deed saying what they need to do and upkeep of the rain garden, so.
Because sometimes people just think that's right.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but, yes. They do have a long, term maintenance agreement that tells them how to, care for it and what kind of plants they need and whatnot.
Well, they had 2 easements to the back. Are they sufficient?
Yes, what they're going to do, the first iteration of this that we saw, would you mind if I drive? Sure. Thanks. There's 100-foot of frontage here, so you can have 2 flag lots, just basically split the middle down through here and have 2 5-acre tracts here, and then the third 5-acre tract would hit this in this area. So, and that does meet our requirements.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then could those easements allow you to break that down further than 5 acre tracts?
Well, only if you allow them to do it with a waiver, because they've got about 18 acres left. So you would have 3 5-acre tracts, which that can be done. Each one's going to have its own road frontage. But if somebody wanted to break that down further into other tracts, unless they wanted to build an actual road, like a county road, they would have to submit something for you to approve through a waiver, because then those tracts would be under 5 acres.
A regular subdivision.
Correct.
That is possible, and there is ample road.
There would be,
ample
yes.
access. for
Yeah,
that.
there would be if they wanted to do that. Yes, they could do that. But if they wanted to just try to split more off of the private easement there, the lots would automatically be under 5 acres, and that would have to come to you for a waiver request.
I know we've tried in the past, I just wish there was a way to reduce the number of driveway connections. When we subdivide like that, I know everyone has a right to access to the property, but I wish there was a way to either make it go to internally or something when we're subdividing. I know that hasn't been successful in the past, has it?
Yeah, we tried to pair the driveways, so we've got, 3 sets of double pairs. There's,
Try to at least make it the conflict points,
Right.
common points.
Right.
Each one still has an individual driveway, but
I don't know that there's an answer. I mean, it seems like the last time we were in this room, we looked at another one that very similar
Same
to that.
thing.
I don't know how you fix that.
There was one, it was several years ago, and I'm surprised that I even remembered it.
They can't
And I want to say it was off Woodbury Highway or somewhere, but it was a deal where what they had done is they basically created their own little private access road. They had like one turning point.
Like a frontage
and then
road?
And then that frontage road let everybody get in.
We did one
but
of
then they
those
were
on
all exiting that
Salem
one.
Highway.
And that, of course, that's the first thing that came to mind here, is have that one access point, and then behind the houses, have a road behind.
Yeah, now, and we've seen that in other situations. I mean, even within the last year or so, we saw one on Central Valley Road, Leanna Central Valley, I think it was. No, Swamp Leanna, excuse me, Swamp Leanna Road. We saw one. I mean, there was one. I think it was that Plainview. Is that where that was? Out there off Epps Mill in that area, where if you remember they all had road access. They all kind of. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Mike will find it real quick here, but basically what they did, they all had road frontage, but they all accessed one single driveway. And I remember at the time, because of the way the subdivision was developed, there was a little bit of concern with the planning commission because, I mean, they technically met the subdivision regulations to get all those lots, but in essence, what they were doing was creating a private easement. It almost seemed like they were kind of going around the regulations in a sense, but it's almost on a case by case basis kind of a situation is what we ended up looking at.
Well, and I don't know, if I'm not familiar with this particular road, you know how busy it is. The reason that I remember the other one was
there,
because it was a busy road.
Mhm.
At the time,
Yeah.
that was a smart way to do it. was to
Wayside.
control the
It's
access,
Wayside.
control the traffic flow there.
Yeah, this is the one that I was just talking about on Wayside, not Plainview, Wayside, where you see
We've got
everyone.
One, I guess, common driveway. They all have frontage, but they all. They all
you've got
have
a
frontage,
connection issue.
but they share a common driveway and access easements across.
I just worry that the back part ends up being more than 3 lots, and then
Right.
we have a lot of conflict.
Right. Well, and like I said, the only way that should happen, without, if they were to come in with a subdivision plat showing an actual county road, that's one thing. But the only way that can happen beyond that would be if they came back through and said, hey, we want to put more lots off of this private easement, but they're all going to be under 5 acres. They would have to get a waiver from the planning commission for that. I couldn't just approve that. So you will have some opportunity should that happen.
I just know we sit here doing a heartburn going, well, shucks, that's already designed that way. It's not a great plan, but that's what we're doing, you know?
Right.
So we're
right.
just trying to avoid the all shucks moment right now.
Right.
Just nice to reduce all the conflict points you can,
Yeah.
get them to a common.
I'm the one that's doing this, so let me put that to rest. I'm going to sell 3 acreage tracts. There's not going to be any further development. In fact, I'm going to have it restricted against further development. There won't be any more further development. It won't work. I've tried, but it won't work. Trust me, I've spent tons of money trying to get it to work, and it won't work. So it ain't going to work. And as far as the traffic out there, the road's 40 miles an hour. And believe me, I've been out there on the property quite a bit, and there is very little traffic. It doesn't go anywhere. That road goes out to Midland Road, and it's very little traffic. So, we're not talking about Shovel Highway here. I mean, it's nothing like that. We didn't do a traffic study, but believe me, from just being out there, there's not a lot out there as far as, well, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, who lives out there on Midland Road? Very few people. It's not what you would think a state highway would normally look like. It looks like a regular county road as far as the travel patterns. So I just thought I'd put that to rest. I don't have any plans of re-subdividing anything. So thank you very much.
Doug, do you remember, or how close are the other subdivisions to this lot? The
They're
ones that are going in?
right there.
I mean, they're right there.
Yeah, I
next
mean,
to it?
you can see on the map. I mean, that's Clearview right next to it.
Okay.
Across the street, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the one that is on the other side of Christiana
Yes.
Elementary School that
Mhm.
several subdivisions on both sides
Yes.
have been approved.
Yes.
So if the traffic's not bad now, unfortunately.
It's
it was
coming.
going-
It's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm upstream from that, and you're
Okay.
right. Now,
Which she is.
downstream, beyond that, it's probably gonna be better to get through and get to that. Because right in my front, you can see that part there is probably, most people coming out of new development is gonna be heading east towards
Okay.
Shovel Highway.
Where's the one that ties into Lewis Downs?
Right there. I mean, right across the street.
And
Almost.
And the owner's right. I mean, the 9 lots he's proposing total would not have the impact that the others would.
Right,
But-
correct.
Right.
Correct.
if
But it
everybody
all
does
adds
9
on to the
lots,
road,
It
yeah.
eventually tips the scale. So.
He is right. He's down below where all the other growth is at this time. And he's totally right. Each one of these would have to have state access to the highway.
You'll have to get that on, I think, each one of those lots. won't
He will.
you? But I do appreciate the effort of trying to consolidate as many as you can.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve if we haven't done that already.
We have it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 19-2004 Walnut Cove subdivision. Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Doug, let me just kind of throw this out there. These 7 lots, and there would be 3 lots, 5-acre lots behind that.
Yes.
What about mail kiosk at that point?
That'd be up to the Postal Service at that point if they wanted them to do that. I mean, we, unfortunately, we know his plan is to do that, but we don't know when. So I don't think it's right to make him do something for something he may do 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, but I was just wondering
Yeah.
if those 3 lots would be part of this same subdivision, what would happen?
Well, something that happened on the Patricia Sanders plat. It was kind of like it wasn't a kiosk, but what they did say they would do curbside delivery, but they made them kind of put them in groups of 4 clusters, if you will. Yeah, so they're not kiosks in that sense, and we see that a lot in some of the more rural areas too, where if you've got a small road, like a private road or something, you'll see like 4 or 5 mailboxes up front. That I think that's probably, my guess is that's probably what they'll make them do here, right?
So there's some vision there.
Yes,
Okay.
they'll have options.
Okay.
So
Very good. Items submitted for site plan approval, 7D1. Item 18-3029, Mediation Center, new construction of 4,246 square feet of small community assembly space on 5.05 acres zoned RM located at 2033 G Road. Mediation Center is the applicant.
yes, sir. Thank you. The existing structure is on the property, and you can see those on the site plan. They're currently being used as a residence and as part of the meditation center. This proposed addition will separate the functions. The proposed occupancy is less than 150 people, so this use is classified as small community assembly, which is allowed by right in the RM zone. The Board of Zoning Appeals did grant a variance to the side, which would be the south setback for those existing structures. Several of them were built, well, as you can tell, they were built almost right on the property line. So they've been working with staff with that for quite some time. But the Board of Zoning Appeals did grant them a variance to that. These proposed structures, though, that are being built on the property will meet our current setback requirements. We did have some concerns regarding elevation changes and things, and I'll let Mike discuss. I know he's got a couple comments he wants to make. But as far as our comments that we had on the actual set of plans, we've gone through this couple different renditions of this plan. The plans themselves appear to be in pretty good order, but I'm going to turn it over to Mike to let him discuss.
It's mainly a building issue. The existing floor of the existing structures is a biscuit under 638, and the new structure is going to be at 639.5. So you've got an 18-inch difference in elevation from 2 buildings that are butting each other, but they are intending to slope the floor between the existing structure and the assembly hall, and then I guess they'll have to transition in the restroom facility as well. So that'll be an internal function, but they'll be able to get that to work out, I believe.
And representatives of the applicant are present if you have any questions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 18-3029 for the Mediation Center. Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Item 7D2, 19-3001, Clear Creek Subdivision Mail Kiosk, new construction of mail kiosk on 0.54 acre lot, zone PUD, located along Elmview Court, Parks Development is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As we stated earlier, we're going to see several of these on the agenda today. This is the one for the Clear Creek subdivision. This is located off of Almaville Road. I might pull up the plat or the map right here, showing you where the general location is.
Section 2 of Clear.
Right. So there, along with the lots within the subdivision, there are some curbside lots along Almaville Road, kind of in the curve of the road here. There's only 4 lots. Those are going to remain curbside delivery. We've received verification from SCC, from the USPS on that. But the site plan in of itself, we have reviewed the plan. We had several comments. Those comments have been addressed. The plan's in pretty good order now. Our requirements appear to be met. Along with this, there's also a lighting plan that they've submitted for each of these, and the lighting plan does meet our requirements as well. So we'd recommend approval. We think it's in pretty good shape. Yes, they showed some landscaping as well.
And they've got a future playground here, and they're showing future parking for that playground, the additional parking in there for that.
I like that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 19-3001 Clear Creek subdivision mail kiosk.
It looks like the future parking in the future amenity area straddle property line. You can see where the one that said is circle, and you've got the
The larger behind it, yeah.
and then you've got the solid, your dash that would be.
I think it's all common area.
They took out the.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I think that's all common area. I don't know why that.
I mean, that being said, whenever that comes up, I mean, that would just be a re-subdivision. We could help them work around that. Yeah. Right.
Other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 7D3, 19-3002, new maintenance building for Murfreesboro Quarry Blue Water Industries. New construction of 4,800 square feet of maintenance building on 474-acre tract zoned HI located along Twin Oak Drive. Hoover Company is the applicant. Doug?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The applicants are, as you stated, proposing to construct a maintenance building for the existing quarry property. Our comments were actually, this plan was actually in a pretty decent shape. We did have some comments on it, and those comments have been addressed. Applicants are here and can answer any questions you may have, but beyond that, we'd recommend approval. We think it's in pretty good shape. And Mike,
yeah, it'll be situated approximately in this area right here, so it's all on the old Blue Water Hoover site.
Is this replacing some building or?
No, it's a brand new maintenance facility. See if I can get back to the plans. Mouse will work. Yeah. They are going to have water, and they've got septic system. There's a couple old houses that they're going to tie to. Their septic systems up here, so they have a tank and a force, or I think they can gravity flow down to these systems down here, but there are two septic systems right here that they can tie to.
of course, they'd have to work with TDEC with that and whatnot.
Right. You know, it's permits through them.
Right.
And it's all within their own property.
It's all, yes, all on their own property.
Basically getting permission to build their own.
Right. The reason it's coming before you is because of the size of the structure. You know, anything over 3,000 square feet has to come before you.
Make motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the new maintenance building for Blue Water, Quarry Blue Water Industries. Any other comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 7D4, 19-3003, Clearview Acres, Section 1. This is for mail kiosk. New construction of mail kiosk on .23 acre lot, zone PUD, located along Compass Way. 3BC is the applicant. Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Again, this is another mail kiosk site plan. This one's a little bit different in the sense that it's not off-street parking. It's actually parallel spots, if you will, on the property. The plan really is in decent shape now. We have had several comments on this, and I know that staff has gone back and forth with the design engineer on some changes and everything. But for the most part, this does appear to be in pretty good shape now. There was a comment on here about there's a CUD force main near where where they're putting the kiosk and the parking area and whatnot. We just need to make sure, verify from CUD that based on the location of the parking areas that they're okay with that. Right. Yeah. So, provided that's okay. If not, we'll kind of take a step back and punt. But everything appears to be in good shape with it beyond that. So we'd be happy to answer any questions.
So they'll be backing out into Compass Way then? Is that the way we're going to do this?
Well, no, it's parallel parking. So this is a variant to the other plans that you've seen where they actually pull off site. This one they'll have to parallel park, and the only problem with this is if somebody's leaving and they want to check their mail, they'll have to turn around and come back and park and then turn around and go back out again. So it'll be a challenge getting people used to that. But we do have a handicap parking spot with an unloading aisle on it. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. That's what we have.
Are they doing this for space? They just don't have space to do like diagonal parking? People don't know how to parallel park anymore.
I'd let the design engineer answer that question.
Yes, ma'am. We don't particularly have room to do the access aisle off in that because this subdivision, this subdivision had been planned and actually was almost complete on construction whenever these regulations started coming out. So it's one that we're kind of having to shoehorn in, if you will. Yeah. And in most of the examples that the Postal Service has sent out, they actually have the little pull-off like similar to this. So, and I don't think that, I mean, unless it's full, most people will treat it like more like a pull-off rather than a true parallel parking space. So I don't think we'll really have that most of the time. If somebody's afraid of parallel, they'll just pick up their mail in a little while, I think. So, and we've got sidewalks in this neighborhood, so everything here should be in walking distance, so they could walk back and get it as well. Would also be some of the hope.
How many homes will this kiosk serve?
So I think we have, I forget the whole neighborhood, but I think this one is going to serve in the neighborhood of about 150, 160. And we plan to have another. This is one we plan to have 2 because we've got 2 entrances, very clearly demarked entrances. And so we're going to have one at the Section 2 entrance that would come off of, that would be close to the entrance there. And that entrance is to the west of this one.
Oh, that would be helpful.
And that you should see that preliminary plan and kiosk site plan at next month's Planning Commission as well for Section 2.
I'm just thinking about for future design. I think the angled spaces are just much more user friendly. That's the way I put it. Yeah, so when you can't understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though the post office is sending out this plan.
And now most of the ones that they send out appear very sunny and palm trees. So maybe things are a little different down there.
It does look like sight distance is good in both directions. So I mean, it's in a good. But the distance from, is it 269 to the mail kiosk? Is there any? I'm trying trying to think if there's any sort of signage or speed limit or anything, because if somebody's trying to back in, just so happen if there's only one spot and somebody decides to back into it, to keep them from getting rear-ended or something like that.
I think we did lower the speed limit on this.
Just through that short section?
The whole subdivision.
Because of the curves?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
I think we went down to 20 or 25.
Okay.
Is it
And
25?
I think that we still have about 300 to 400 feet there. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
yeah,
count
there-
7 or
yeah.
8 lots right there, and I think there were 50-foot wide lots. So, and I think you're right, Mike. I think it did go to 25, I believe is right.
So there is quite a few. There is some distance before the.
Which the road geometry helps the speeds
Right.
in that sense, so it's not a straight shot in, so they can't build up the speed.
Well, and the idea of having a sign, I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a great idea. That anytime you're approaching an LPS area, it just might be wise to slow people down. It's like you would go on your playground or anything else.
Well, this one being a special situation as part of the roadway. The others, I think you pull out of traffic, they're a lot dedicated. This one just seems like it might need a little, I don't know what that would be.
I'm just thinking it would even just help people be mindful, because just like we talked about, you've got sidewalks, you're gonna have more pedestrian traffic in and out of this area. It's gonna be a busy area.
We can look, see if there's some sort of
I don't know what the
kiosk.
words would be on it, but.
I mean, I'm assuming you're wanting something flashing neon. I don't.
Yeah, if you put beacons both directions and all.
No, they did come up with a nice design for the parallel parking and the sidewalk, so it kind of all flows together, you know, tying to the existing curb and gutter. So.
Yeah, it looks fine for what you've got and the more area that you have to do.
But we will certainly look for some sort of standard signage. I'm not just.
Slow your roll, something like that. There is just one thing, this is completely unrelated to this, but it just made me think about it. As the county's really beginning to tackle our landfill issue, more and more we're going to be encouraging folks to recycle. And so I'm just curious if that's something that you might think about, especially in your PUDs, is maybe setting up recycle stations. I mean, is that could be part of the homeowner associations? They're already having to maintain things anyway. I don't even know if that's even been any part of the conversation that you've had with the developers, but the more we get on the front end of trying to, change our culture into that recycling mindset, I think the better.
I think where we have seen the most success with recycling has been if it's a curbside service, and I know that we've had several private companies, some more successful than others over the years, and so I think there's a couple that are starting to get a good foothold in the county. We use one at home for that reason. I don't recall their name off the top of my head. The previous one that we had went out of business, and they started to struggle a lot the last year or so, I think. But I think that's where the most success will be. Now, I would be afraid in a conventional subdivision, that'd be more like a dumpster type area, and those tend to. Those are more customed, I think, in more like the townhouse. If we have some townhouse developments come, that could very well be something like that, because you're used to going to the compactor or dumpster, depending on the size already. So it's just a different mindset of living, in my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
Can I make 2 comments? One is, on any of these mail kiosk designs, we should have an extended concrete, where you have the concrete slab for the kiosk, you should also have an extension for a trash receptacle. Because I'm telling you, people are going to get their mail, they're going to throw away all the coupon and advertisement, and you've got to have a place for trash on all these. And my other comment is, from my personal history, I have seen a lot of the major apartment complexes have a very similar kiosk access point like Matt has just drawn here, although they don't even bother with parking places. They just want you to pull up, stage, get your mail, and what happens is people get accustomed, so they pull up to the front. Some people will, it's very courteous, it's very, let's get our mail, let's get in the car, let's move, and people just stack, and they figure it out. So there absolutely is no spaces, dedicated spaces, and it's in a complex of about 200 apartments. There's maybe three, maybe 4 places to turn off and stage. So it's in and out, and throw all your wasted mail in the trash can and go.
That's the trash receptacle is a good idea. We will go back and add that.
I mean, that's for everybody.
Right.
And we've, depending on the type of design of the apartment developments, we've got some of those that the entire mail system is inside the building, and so you physically have to walk to it. You can't even, I mean, there's nothing outside. So some of that security for the mail itself, and mail, theft, identity theft issues, so, and parcel holds, those sorts of things.
Mike's totally right in that. I mean, I haven't seen any of those facilities that have a lot of parking that you have to deal with those. And I think that you hit on something right there. You just don't, people don't sit there and go through their mail or whatever. They get it to go, take it back to their houses. That's what your plans are, and go from there. And I think the receptacle is very important, especially around election time. I think that's what you're going to
But two of them out there.
Well, maybe you want them to take that stuff home.
Well, and that makes a great point, that we just, again, we're living and learning as we develop these, maybe we want to, on paper, it makes sense to us to have designated parking spaces. Maybe as we live and learn through these things, we can make it more of a corporate, I'm completely open to making it work however it works best.
Right, and unfortunately, a lot of the ones we're looking at today, these are all the one, except for the first one that we looked at under the preliminary plan. All of these are ones where the subdivision was pretty much ready to go, the infrastructure was in and everything. They're having to kind of go back and retrofit. So unfortunately, we've seen the situations where, like this particular design that we're seeing right here, just may not have worked in some of those other subdivisions. That's why they went with the design that they did. When we start seeing this more on the front end, where they can plan for that, we might see more of these, and we're fine with that. If this is what it ends up going to, we didn't. If you remember, when we made these regulations, we didn't want to dictate you have to do it this way. But if you do it, this is the way we want to see it done. So we're fine with this. It's just a matter of it happened to work like it worked better in this subdivision. It just didn't work as well. It would not have worked as well in the couple of ones that we looked at. Oh yeah, as are we. Right, as are we. Yeah, I'm not going to mandate they come in and has to be an off-street parking area and this and that. What I want to avoid are those that are backing out onto the street. Yeah. Some of those that we've seen. That's something that I wouldn't. This I don't really have a big issue with. So.
Doug, I feel that we have probably spent more time on this than USP has.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But they did give us a whole lot of guidance.
Yeah.
They decided that we're going to do this, and that's it. And I don't think they've spent that much time like we had to spend here, as far as our developers have spent on this. So,
yeah, and at our next planning conference that we have in March, well, we were supposed to have one back in September at the previous conference, but the U.S. Postal Service person that was going to give the presentation got the date and time wrong, so they didn't show up. And yeah, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. But they're supposed to be at our next conference to start talking about this. Someone from the Postal Service to. Yeah, I think so. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it just because there's a lot of communities in Tennessee that are just starting to deal with this or haven't even begun to deal with this yet. Yeah. So there's a learning curve as we.
I think in
noticed.
5 to 7 years we'll have a lot better idea of what works in what situation,
Yeah.
and what works in one situation may not work in the other size subdivision or whatever.
Well, my guess is this design where you pull off and just stage is going to be the ideal. And the one, to me, the one that's not going to work, and I know this is not our problem from planning, but if you're the homeowners association, the plat we just saw before where you actually have 4 or 5 spaces off-site near the common area, what's going to happen is the house with the 2 teenagers that lives 2 doors down, that's where they're going to park their cars. And then the homeowners association is going to have to deal with that illegal parking. And then the people that want to use that to park to get their mail are going to raise a stink. So that, again, that's not our problem, but that's what's going to happen.
We've seen some good layouts to get us started. Though. I
Yes.
think that with vague guidance that we've been given and have provided as well, we've seen some good options.
Nothing against teenagers. I'm just talking about. I'm talking about the houses that have 4 cars for a 2-car garage. And you can't. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, good job. Thank you, Rhonda.
You just bought the teenage vote right there, Mike.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have dared done that as a teenager, would you, Mike?
No, not at all. Not at all. I had to walk to school uphill both ways. Yeah.
5 feet of snow, barefoot.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, do we have a motion to approve Clearview Acres? We do not.
No.
No, we do. We don't.
They're so moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 19-3003, Clearview Acres, Section 1, mail kiosk. Any other questions? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. 7D5, 19-3004, Nature Walk Subdivision, Planning Unit Development Mail Kiosk and Amenity area for new construction of mail kiosk, playground area, RV vehicle storage area, related parking on 2/3 of an acre lot, zoned planned unit development located along Beulah Rose Drive. A&R Land Investments is the applicant. Doug.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I won't beat a dead horse, and we've seen this all. We all know what we're looking at. This one was a little bit different because it has an RV RV and vehicle storage area and a playground. So we asked them to add a little bit more parking, which they have done. Everything else with this meets the criteria. There's enough spaces there for the kiosk specifically, but then there's also additional spaces. So we asked them to put some additional landscaping into around where the RV storage and everything will be. So this isn't just for the kiosk, it's for that as well. The RV storage area was shown on their PUD pattern book. So this is part of the common area improvements that they wanted to provide for this subdivision. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So they will have to turn in off the drive there, or whatever.
Yes, yeah, this is an actual turn in it, correct.
It's a separate parking lot.
And that kiosk is a little, far away from the parking lot. So they're going to have to get another car to walk down the sidewalk to the kiosk, is that right?
Yeah, just a little ways, not too terribly far, just 30 feet, maybe 20, 30 feet.
Get your steps in.
It's the exercise program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody in that subdivision gets a Fitbit.
Nature
and then
walk.
They can
It's called
start
nature walk.
seeing how many steps they take.
It'll be interesting to see how this one works relative to the one we just saw, because they're kind of different designs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'd say people will get their mail less in this than they have to walk.
Well, they got to walk to the mailbox from their front door.
Yeah, that's really it's not a whole lot different.
And they do have sidewalks in the subdivision too.
It'll be interesting to see.
I'm more curious about the RV storage.
Yeah, me too.
Is this who thought of that, Matt? And is this a 55 and up elderly subdivision, or what's
I
going
mean,
on?
are you saying only 55 and up store
I
RVs?
I qualify, dude.
I've got an RV that's been stored for a year. I think that was our client's brainstorming idea there. I can't remember because I think we did that PUD about 10 years ago, but I believe that was our client. I think they saw a need on that.
Yeah, it was part of the original PUD that we worked out on, our part playground, storage and stuff. But it's a pretty large subdivision.
Yeah.
At the
Okay.
time.
And I think that was in an effort to, they know people want those things and they don't want to pay to store them somewhere else, and they don't want those in their driveways for the HOA.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a pretty good idea.
It is a pretty good idea.
Is there landscaping around the chain link fence?
Yes, ma'am.
Couple sides.
Yeah, I was thinking like
Make a motion to approve such cost.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve 19-300 Nature Walk subdivision. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of that motion to approve, please say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion to approve carries. Thank you. Staff reports.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we just have a couple. The first have to do with amendments to the stormwater regulations. Mike, I guess I turn over to you, or Katie. Katie P., our stormwater engineer, is present. Essentially, well, I'll let her discuss it.
We're just changing the wording of our waivers, I guess. So if we find someone in violation of the stormwater ordinance, we had said that they were going to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then after speaking with our lawyer, we found out that wasn't really legal. So we're actually going to go through the Board of Adjustment and Appeals with Building and Codes, and that is legal. So we just basically, everywhere it said Board of Zoning Appeals, it's actually going to the Board of Adjustments. That's really all that we're changing.
And that'll be simultaneous. This will be going simultaneously with some changes. The counties adopted the new 2018 International Family Code, the family of codes, I should say, and there's going to be a separate resolution regarding this as well, as far as the responsibilities and roles of the Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals, where they'll also have the ability to have review stormwater regulation issues. So this will all kind of work in tandem together. So that's the only change. Nothing beyond that is changing.
Our approval of this doesn't have to go before the county commission?
Yes, it will have to have a public, it's already been advertised to the county commission. There has to be a public hearing, but before that, it had to have your favorable vote, or basically comment of that. What's that? No, just a recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the amendments to our stormwater ordinance. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? None. That motion carries. Thank you.
On your screens, you will see the 2018 work schedule report, and also some things we'd like to work on in 2019. We kind of changed it up a little bit, how we do things on this year. I've been kind of toying with some different things, and I anticipate further changes as we get into the planning software and the different reports and everything that can run. Hopefully within the next year or so, we'll be able to see some reports from that as we get that all online. Just a couple of things just from a staff standpoint. Matthew Fazig, our project engineer for the county's highway department, accepted a position with the city of Murfreesboro. We're happy for him. We hate to lose him, but we're also happy he's not that far away. So we still see him from time to time. Also, Katie, who was just up here a moment ago, she did receive her professional engineering certificate this year. I forget when, in 2018. October, was it? Okay. I think you might have mentioned something about it even before that, but I wanted to call that out here again. You'll see that we reviewed a total of 16 preliminary plans, which contained about 700, just a shade under 700 lots. A total of 145 final plats were reviewed, including all re-subdivisions combinations, for a total of 1,346 lots. Now, keep in mind, not all of those plats were creating new lots. Some of them were just amendments and whatnot. And recorded plats with 4 or more lots contained 640 of those lots. There's some charts at the end. I don't have paper copies of this. I can make some, or I can just email it to you. I was trying to save paper, so with that, thanks. But just a few things that we were able to take care of in 2018. Of course, the plans review and permit tracking software. We've been discussing that as we've been going on with this process. We were able to get the RFP out, thanks in large part to Tanya Bell, who's sitting way in the back over there. I know she did a lion's share of that work, so I really appreciate the work that she did for that. But we ended up with the True North CityWorks software suite, if you will. The funding for that project was approved back in May of 2018. Implementation has begun. There's 2 processes that are currently in the test phase. One is inquiries, and the other one is zoning enforcement. We actually are holding a kind of a staff-led training seminar on Wednesday. We talked with Mayor Ketron, and he gave us the ability to close our offices down for about an hour while we kind of go through some of these things just to start learning the process. But so when the heavier duty training, if you will, starts, that we'll already have some familiarity with the software. So that is ongoing, and we're very excited about what that's going to all entail.
Do you have a goal for when you want to be 100% live on this?
I'd like to have most of it done by the end of the year. I think that's kind of what the contract is. Now, we're not going to rush it. If we think we need more time, I think a lot of it's going to be done by the end of the calendar year. But realistically, calendar year, end of this year, next year probably is what we're looking at.
Once we get a functional module or 2, we can, modify the others as we go.
Right. And then, like I said, what we'll do, even after it goes live, we'll have a transition period where we'll allow the submittal processes we have now or online, the digital process. And at some point, after we've done that for a little bit, we'll just cut off and say, okay, from now on, everybody goes digital. And that's all we're going to do. The ADA transition plan, we worked in conjunction with the Building Codes Department and Human Resources to conduct an audit of county facilities and their accessibility for those with disabilities. That report has been completed. Recommendations will be implemented now. We looked at things like public buildings and things as far as handicap accessibility. Those are the kind of things this is what we were required to do. So we thankfully we were able to together to get it all finished. But just want to let that there. A couple different zoning amendments that we talked about. Of course, we updated our temporary uses, you know, the ability to have firework tents, seasonal food vendors, things like that. If they didn't have any issues, rather than keep coming and going through the Board of Zoning Appeals, we could do an administrative renewal. We implemented that last year and really cut down the amount of work going to the BZA, so that was good. Of course, I'm not going to go into the mail kiosks. I think we've talked about that enough today. We developed a continuity of operations plan. This was at the direction of the mayor's office, along with help from the county's EMA and Office of Information Technology, OIT. Really, the plan is to ensure that if something happens, heaven forbid, to this building, we have somewhere else that we can go, and we have a plan set up where we kind of know where we're going. Mr. Greg Brooks with the Highway Department has graciously allowed us some space in his facility that we can set up, at least temporarily, until things get back to normal, and then we move back into the building.
Doug, I would assume that other county offices then have done the same thing.
Yes,
and
yeah, all counties were required to do it.
That's
yes.
good. That's a good deal.
Yeah. Mike, you might want to talk about the FEMA grant.
Right. We've applied for several grants through TEMA and FEMA to buy out some existing houses that have repetitive flood losses, and there is a matching portion. They've changed the grant. It's still, what is it, 25% or the matching part? There is a county matching part, so I'm thinking it's no more than 25%. But it's they've modified the grant that we're going for from a national to a regional grant application, and all the paperwork's in Atlanta, so we should hear something by June or July, I believe.
What happens to that lot? I assume
it becomes county property. The house gets torn down, and it becomes a grass lot from here on out.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the tax revenue, you know.
Yeah, right.
There's no way to fill them, no way to raise these houses up out of the floodplain that would maintain county revenue.
Yes, yes. Well, some of these houses are on conventional septic systems. I think they all are. So if you fill the lot, you're simply essentially destroying the septic system. But if they are bought out by this grant money, we're not allowed to do anything with them. I mean, we can make it a grant, ma'am.
What's one of the terms of the grant?
Yes, yes. We have to essentially leave it green space. I mean, there is a few minor things you could use it for, like a ball field or something like that, and just what's that?
Can we build a transfer station on it?
Doubt it, very seriously, but.
Well, that's a good point, though. I wonder if maybe the county should consider not seeking grants and buying these properties and trying to raise it in.
I think the ones that we're looking at, they're all in residential subdivisions.
Right.
So I don't know.
Liability is exactly the same. That our hands are tied. Cause we talked about this in budget. You know, our hands are tied because that's the terms of the grant. But what's the trade-off of the grant money versus the future? Keeping it on the tax roll.
Right, right.
Is there a way to keep it on the tax roll? There's a couple off Twin Oak Drive that.
Yeah, there was many years ago.
Yeah, we bought several of those.
Yeah.
There was
and I noticed them, and
they're open lots. They're lots. Yeah, the road's gone. The lot's gone.
Who maintains them?
The county. The highway department mows them 4 times a year, 2 times a year, something like that.
We've got a cost and no revenue.
Right, but they are houses that, for one reason or another, flood repeatedly.
Is there a typical time period when these houses that flood a lot were built? Were they most of them built in the 70s, early 80s, or they go back to the 60s, or have we made mistakes in the last 15 years?
I will show you the ones that I'm thinking of, and I'll show you why we're thinking of them.
And is it a change
late
in
80s, I
the
think.
stream flow or something that caused this?
No, it was the limited information that we had as the county, as the design engineers and the reviews. You know, when I started working here as an engineer, I was still taping paper maps together. You know, and you know, so it's come a long way in my career. But let me get up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Roanoke, I think it was Roanoke. We had some lots that are
Really?
my map will work. There we go. That's what we're up against. And like I said, what we're trying to avoid this at all costs today, so we never have to encounter this again. But back in the day, that it just, you know, the limited of information they had. And let's see the date on this subdivision.
Or mid-80s? Early
Yeah.
to
I
mid-80s?
think we bought them in the 90s, didn't we, or something?
07. So, well, there's an 80. No, that was a resub. So 87 in the 80s. Yeah. So, so this is what we're trying to help these people out.
Is that a 2010 picture there?
Yes.
It's typically a
Yes.
very large rain event.
Right. But some of these do happen on a regular basis. We get calls a lot.
It does look like a boat, doesn't it?
He's
No,
got
there's-
his bass boat right up against his
That's what I was
house.
thinking, right at the back of the.
Right, but there's some down the street that made the news just a year or two ago that the highway department was able to help out, increasing the drainage capacity.
I was going to ask, do they require you to look at other drainage alternatives?
Oh yeah, we look at everything
before you apply, or,
right,
or as a
right.
process, part of the
right.
process.
Yes, sir. We work closely with the highway department and their public works division on looking at, you know, how can we fix this problem? Is there a way to drain this? I mean, because a lot of times what we're up against is a large depression that doesn't drain. Just, you know, it's a big bowl that fills up. Kind of like off on Shores Road, you know, a lot of those sinkholes are tied to the river. So when the river comes up, the sinkholes flow out instead of in. So this is part of what we're looking to buy some of these out and help these people.
Okay, question.
Yes, sir.
This was in the 80s?
Yes, sir.
The flood maps have changed a little bit since the 80s, right?
Yes, sir. But these aren't actually on the flood maps. These,
Okay. What, well, this was all before us, right? This is
Yes, sir.
2019. Why in the world would we approve this kind of building it in the 80s?
I do not know. I do not know. Like, we work, you know, hand in hand with the design engineers. We'll look at any. We look at FEMA, but we also look at localized flooding issues. I mean, I always look for spillover elevations. If there's a pipe, you could size it for a 25, 50-year, 100-year storm. There's always a chance it's going to get clogged.
Yeah.
It's going to get overwhelmed. So I always look at spillover elevations, roads, sinkholes, anything like that. So we don't have this again. But see, this is all Zone X. This is all saying this is outside of the FEMA flood zone.
Lack of information.
Right, but to his point, if those came in today,
Right.
how could you make sure that didn't happen somewhere?
We request drainage maps. We look at aerial imagery from the past. We know some years like 2010, 2017 were extremely wet years when these images were flown, so we can say, we need to look outside and see, is this sitting in a bowl? Do we need to look at maybe building these pad elevations up for these houses so we don't, you know, have this problem?
And I would say too, just overall, I think we've got a lot more tools in the toolbox than we did back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's, you know, we, back in the 80s, there was no GIS.
No.
There wasn't aerial photography this detailed where you could look at things and do a historical comparison. You know, like Mike was saying, we knew in 2010 there was an event, 2017 was wet. Back then they didn't have any of that.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we've got a lot more tools at our disposal now that we can look at these things and say, okay, these are other things that we need to look at. So our regulations in turn have evolved along with those tools. So we put those tools in the regulations and are able to rely on all that different information to try to avoid those type of situations.
So yeah, I've been spoiled rotten. This is great. I mean, just having all this information right here together. You've got, you know, contours, you've got soil maps, you've got, you know, aerial imagery. So this is an excellent tool to help us in our review process. So I mean, like I said, back in the day, I was taping together paper maps, you know, and you know, using USGS topo maps, those are 10-foot increments. So there's a lot of things that happens between 10-foot intervals, and I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. Because I have those, my maps will work. So if I was using the USGS topo maps, which might be the only information I have to show the broad area, see, I would say, well, this kind of looks flat here, but I don't know if it floods. So that's kind of what we were up against back in the 80s. You know, it was, we didn't have the tools we do today. So
I've been on here long enough to remember that when sometimes the neighborhoods would come in and you would have a rezoning, neighbors would come in with their photographs. And
right, that's all we'd have to go off of.
Anecdotal,
Right.
Right. Because we didn't know of any, that was all the information you had. So I remember that.
So we'd have, you know, Farmer Lynch come in and say, hey, this field floods, you know, we need to.
And we'd listen to them.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes. Sometimes we listen to them.
So,
They show you the grass in the fence row. That was
so those lots that you're talking about that you just showed when the grant money, is the county legally on the hook for that, or are we just being good stewards
We're being good stewards
with the taxpayers?
We don't. I mean, there's no guarantee that we get the grant. We're approved these grants. The homeowners can still say, "No, I think we're okay. We're just going to stay here," and they assume the risk. So,
It's not everybody that we reached out to responded.
right. We reached out to a bunch of people, and we only had like 4, 5, 6 that actually reached out to us and said, yeah, we'd like to pursue this.
And I think one of them wasn't able to get the information
Right.
they needed.
One we had to terminate the grant application because they did not provide us repetitive loss documents from the insurance. So.
When I came to your question, that was a discussion at budget, and I remember Commissioner Stevens voted against it for that very reason, to say, you know, we shouldn't ask the rest of the taxpayers to, you know, subsidize this, but, and we're obviously trying to do the right thing by citizens. So it's a tough call.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll just kind of skim through the rest of the document, if we could, just real briefly. We've been discussing the long range transportation plan and comprehensive plan update. We do have money in the budget this year, of course, with the new mayor and new administration, several new commissioners. Of course, we want to kind of see what their temperature is on this. We have talked with Mayor Ketron about this. About the possibility of maybe doing the long-range transportation plan update, but maybe also combining it with an update to the comprehensive plan, which was adopted back in 2011, which is about we're pretty much due for an update with that. So Mayor Ketron seemed pretty receptive of that. We've got some kind of preliminary figures of what that might cost, so it's just a matter now of we're going to present that in our next upcoming budget, and then hopefully from there we'll be able to kind of make some progress on that.
But the long-range transportation plan and major thoroughfare plan is
same thing, just different way to say it. Yes, ma'am.
What's the ballpark price?
The numbers that I received were anywhere from $150,000 to about $300,000 for the whole project.
That depends on if you're doing just roads or
Correct. I had them price the whole thing, right? But they said one of them would probably be about 100, 150. But if you put them both together, that would be somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000. Now that wouldn't be probably all in one calendar year. Or fiscal year. We would break that up, kind of like we did when we updated when we did the comprehensive plan, updated the zoning and subdivision regulations. We did that over the course of 2 or 3 different fiscal years. So it wasn't, it was more manageable. So that's probably what we propose here as well. There are some amendments to our subdivision regulations and things that we know we need to do. These are things we'd like to work on. Our culvert inventory, I know Mike's been something that he's been wanting to get done. Kind of like we were just talking about, not just FEMA, but the localized flooding layer, that just give us, again, just another tool to help us when we're looking at, when we know about a local flooding issue, have a layer on a GIS that specifically calls that out. That way, it's just, again, just another tool that we can use. We've also been assisting the mayor's office with evaluating properties for office buildings for the county clerks, trustee, DMV, state trooper's office. Nothing specific at this point. We've reviewed a few properties and given him some information on those. He did present one at the property management committee the other day in the Blackman area near the Blackman Elementary School, but we'll just kind of see where that goes. We're just providing information and things that he's asked us to do. Also designing a parking lot addition for the Smyrna branch of the county clerk's office. Because of the volume of the activity there, they really need some more parking. So I know it's something that Mike's been working pretty hard on. So those are all things that we anticipate happening in 2019. Along with the other things that'll pop up, like mail kiosks and things, just kind of pop out of nowhere.
That's what I was thinking. That's, yeah.
What's that now?
Fences.
Fences.
There's so much on fences. I can't believe you left fences off of one of the things that we accomplished this year. Wasn't it this past year?
I thought that was the year before when we did the
Maybe it just
fences.
felt like
Yeah.
it lingered.
Yeah. I think that was the year before. Yeah.
I think it lingered.
He's wanting to forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 2017 if I remember right. Yeah. So no, I didn't forget that. But that just kind of gives you an update on that. Some of the charts I was talking about, you can kind of see the total number of lots recorded that were 4 lots or greater. You can see it's kind of been trending up for a little bit, but then kind of took a little bit of a dip in 2018. Rezoning applications, fairly steady over the years. We kind of had a large year back in 2017 for whatever reason, but that kind of went down to a more manageable number back in 2018. We didn't see quite as many. It still equals almost 2 a month, though, when you look at that. And then this is one that I present to Public Works every month. You don't see the numbers on here because this is done monthly, and if you put the labels on there, you wouldn't be able to read them anyway. But you can kind of see, kind of at the high point there, back at there during the recession, 2009, 2010, how you kind of had a little bit of a dip, then it went back up. Then for several years, it just down. Then you kind of leveled out 2016, 2017, kind of go up 2017, came back down, level, and then it's been kind of trailing back up again. So those are just total available lots. That's lots that are actually on the ground that can get building permits. Somebody wanted to come in and get a building permit right now, they could. That's the lot of lots that are on the ground, somewhere around 750 right now. That's just for the unincorporated county area. That doesn't.
How many houses went up in that area, in the unincorporated county area last year?
How many building permits total? 10. Tandy, do you remember how many residential building permits?
Last year we had about, I'm sorry, I don't remember, I think that was about 400.
So 400?
No, that's new building permits.
How many?
Single family dwelling.
How many?
400.
So we're gaining on lots then.
Well, you also see lots being recorded. So if you look back at, that chart and this one kind of go hand in hand in a sense. Now, of course, this doesn't count 3 lots. And the reason historically, this is how we've tracked this one, was 4 lots or greater. I don't know how easy it would be, or if it's even possible to go back and try to figure out how many 3 lots, 2 lots, 1 lots we did during these time frames. So we just kind of kept this chart consistent. But yeah, you may have issued 400 and plus residential permits, but at the same time, we also recorded 640 new ones. So you kind of see that, when you look at that number that Tanya just gave compared to the number of lots we recorded, that kind of plays into the fact that you're seeing an uptick. Now, most of this down here, all this going down, a lot of that was existing inventory. We weren't seeing that many plans at that point, new startups and everything. What we were seeing were existing subdivisions that were kind of dormant, coming back online, and then new sections being recorded of those subdivisions. So we weren't actually adding new quote-unquote lots, new recorded maybe, but there weren't new subdivisions. Really, the preliminaries have really picked up over the last like 4 or 5 years, I'd say. But yeah, as you
It
have
appears
more and more lots
we're at
recorded.
a healthy level number there. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah. The fact, when it got down to about 600, somewhere in the 500-600 range, that, I mean, we were really seeing a lot of new development come in. Now it's starting to kick back up again. I mean, we did a lot of work last year. I would say it probably wasn't quite as much as the year before, but if this trend continues right here, you're going to start seeing a slowdown. You know, if this continues to do an uptick, you know, we'll see that there'll be a slowdown coming. So, but that's just some information. Like I said, I want to get more in depth with this and provide more in depth charts. It was just a matter of time and how the data was, how it was all going to play together and everything. So.
Doug, do you know how many total single-family houses were built in the entire county last year? You know, Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Eagleville.
I don't. I can find out, but I don't have that information just on me.
How it compared to the previous year, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we can find that out pretty easily.
It would be interesting to know somewhere in the county we had a snapshot of the entire county.
Yeah.
Including family, everything. So you could see an entire picture of what the housing market looks like. And you know, we keep in the news you hear about the affordable housing issue. And we made a point our legislators that affordable housing is defined in planning is a home that a first-year teacher, first-year police officer could afford. That's not the same thing, shouldn't be the same thing as a low-income house. Those are two different things. So it would also be interesting to see, you know, if there was no way to aggregate that information and also look at housing costs, pricing, something, so we could really see what's the true, clear snapshot of the housing situation in Rutherford County. I mean, not Chamber of Commerce numbers, like, you know, the real numbers would be interesting.
To give you an idea how many schools are going to have to come down the pike too.
Well, I think it'd be something that would be great information for even all the municipalities to have. If we would congregate the information and then share it back, I just, you know, I like that, and I think they would probably benefit from that as well.
Hey Doug.
Yes, sir.
How hard would it be to take this current chart and back it up to 07, right before the big recession started to gain momentum?
Let me look at that. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Started when we did this. We started this chart. We started it at January 2009. That's when we actually started keeping track. It wasn't that the data didn't exist, but I remember talking to Mayor Burgess, and we just picked an arbitrary date. We said January 2009 because we had to start somewhere. Yeah. So that's what we picked. I'll go back and look at some older.
If you don't have it, you don't have it. I don't want you to go to a lot of work.
I'll see what's available first. Tanya's raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
We might be able to go back and answer your question. Go back on development tax records, and as it is where it applies to the whole county, we issue development tax receipts for every single family dwelling that's built in the county. Now, it wouldn't count if they're replacing a single family dwelling, because development tax wouldn't apply, but it would certainly do that. And I will add that we see about a 10% decline from 2017 to 2018 in Rutherford County.
But that's pretty much the report that I have. Like I said, I'll email this to everybody so you've all got it. The only other item that we have is we're going to have one of our earlier morning training sessions at the February Day meeting. Mike Curtis and some members of our OIT staff, they've been able to acquire some drones that they use for county purposes, and there's a lot of functions that they can use those for planning and building code purposes.
Lasers.
And yeah, lasers, lasers, machine guns, things like that, all kinds of good things. But he's going to come and give a presentation on that and kind of how the county's been using it and some practical applications that we can use for planning and engineering. They've already made this presentation to some groups. that they're involved with. So we're looking forward to that, and we're thankful that they're able to come and do that. So that'll be a 7:30. I don't have the date.
25th.
25th, thank you. So 7:30 we'll be in here, and we'll provide some breakfast for you. You know, probably something like, you know, like we've done, coffee, juice, donuts, something like that. So just we'll send a reminder for you, but just want to state that. Those seem to be pretty well attended, honestly. We usually have a pretty good attendance for those, and they seem to be working pretty well. But again, if you think of any topics that you might want to have some more information on, just feel free to let us know. We'll try to set something up. We'll try to do these like every other month, every 2-3 months. That way we can make sure we get our the training hours in without having to inconvenience everyone too much. So,
Mike, thank you, Doug.
Can I offer a suggestion on training? Sure. Do you guys know any big homeowners association representatives? I mean, there's like 2 or 3 big ones in town.
Yeah.
It would be kind of cool to just hear their side of the story about what their challenges are, and maybe any information they could pass on to us as to what they see as their problems coming up in the future. And
You mean like a Fox Ridge or somebody?
yeah,
What's the one, Rick Cantrell's?
maybe we need to exchange some information back and forth a little bit. Like, hey, by the way, you're in charge of kiosks and all,
And you need to
and all
put
the
a
trash
garbage
cans. And your detention
by
ponds.
the way, yeah. So I think that's all we have.
Thank you for putting that report together.
Thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 11th of February. That'll be the 6 p.m. meeting in the courthouse. Anyone have anything else? Not. Thank you for your attendance and your participation. We are adjourned.